Hey guys, in this video we will be exploring the Transformers, learning a bit about their origins and the secret of their homeworld, and breaking down this robotic species anatomy. But before we get into that, it's important for me to note that the Transformers don't exactly have a straightforward story. Between the cartoons, toy lines, animated shows, and blockbuster movies, a lot of plots have been built upon or completely changed throughout the years, so it's kind of fair to say every version of this iconic series can be considered to be within their own universe. So basically, a Transformerverse. Each story shares a few key events and characters across the board, so you can take this video with the perspective of moi, pulling from each alternate reality in the Transformerverse, trying to piece together this mechanical race of toasters to make the most sense. And this is a little message for the hardcore Transformer fans, from me to you, personally delivered. Please, don't hang me for this. Be gentle with me. I'm soft and supple. But with that said, enjoy the video. Cybertron, the homeworld of the Cybertronians, or as we all call them, Transformers. This massive mechanical world is rich in history of events, but let's go back to the start, the beginning of how this strange world was brought into existence. Before the dawn of time, and millions of years before we were introduced to Optimus Prime's story, an extra-dimensional being named The One created a primordial god and the Lord of Chaos named Unicron. He was made for the purpose to be an explorer of all universes. He was a corrupt being, dedicated to consuming all planets, stars, and all forms of life alike, until there would be nothing left but him floating in the void. To top this off, to carry out his will, he had the ability to travel through realities. After seeing his actions, the One separated Unicron into two beings, creating Primus, the god of Transformers and the creator of life. Primus is the complete opposite of his twin brother Unicron. He is noble, wise, and is the essence that is all good. His literal life force is the only thing his evil twin fears and is weak to. Both of these siblings share a mental connection, so they can locate one another no matter where they might be in the universe. This will be important in just a second. Primus and Unicron clashed into a battle of mass destruction. In combat, Unicron had the upper hand and Primus seemed to be no match for him. So Primus had an idea. He took the fight into the astral plane. And if you don't know, this is a dimension where there are no physical beings. Basically, Tom Holland's Peter and Hulk from the MCU were shown in their astral forms as an example. Think of a realm similar to this, where spirits roam and nothing that can be physically touched could enter this place. After entering this dimension, Primus led his brother Unicron back to the physical realm, ultimately tricking him. Rather than returning to their original forms, both of their essences, or their souls, were trapped into two separate metallic asteroids. Primus had made the ultimate sacrifice to save all of creation. Over time though, Unicron during this imprisonment learned that he could transform his asteroid into a giant metal world, which could transform into a giant robot, with the goal in mind to eventually find and destroy his brother. Remember when I said they both share a mental bond? Well, Primus through this connection learned he could do the same as his brother to transform. But he realized so long as he was awake, Unicron would find him. So in order to hide his life essence, he would go into a very long slumber. So he basically would become undetectable. But during the time that he would be sleeping, he created 13 noble warriors called the Primes to defend life on his behalf while he slept. These soldiers were infused with something called the Spark, which is the life force that gives these beings sentience and emotions. Primus also gifted them the ability that his brother was capable of, and that was to transform into other shapes, which is passed down to later generations. The purpose of these 13 champions would be to build an army over time, one day to confront and battle Unicron. Over eons of time during Primus' slumber, it caused a gap between him and his people, so Transformers considered Primus to be only of legend and myth. Over this long period, Primus transformed his asteroid into the living planet called Cybertron. This large technological planet is entirely made up of metal alloys. The world is covered with numerous towering cities, extensive metallic plains, bottomless neon lit pits, and metal mountains as far as the eye can see. And yes, you guessed it, this is the home of the Cybertronians. They resemble humans, having 4 limbs and 1 head, this being the overall norm shape for this mechanical race. But not all are limited to this, with some having more exotic forms.
I am directly below. The enemy scrotum.
Their society consists of having both female and male genders. A majority of the population is male. Sorry, ladies. Males are usually much larger and bulkier, while females carry a more sleek and petite shape. Height varies from universe to universe, so it gets a little foggy when considering the overall size. And don't blame me, Hollywood makes Transformer sizes very inconsistent. The planet is broken up into various large regions, each holding a handful of populated cities, and roughly 80-ish% of the planet is controlled by one government, which was put into place with the disappearance of the 13 Primes by the High Council, whose purpose was to overlook Cybertron. This group was led by Sentinel Prime and consisted of 13 individuals, usually with a Prime leading as the head. As for the birth of this cybernetic race of microwaves, it can be linked to a few rare artifacts but roots from one point. The source of all Transformer life starts with the creation of a new spark. This is a sphere of pure energy. These are the hearts and souls of each Cybertronian. These supernatural electrically charged orbs are said to be fragments of their god Primus's life essence and are powered by positrons, which are special protons. These sparks are produced at will by a highly advanced supercomputer named Vector Sigma, which is located deep inside the heart of Cybertron. A newborn spark is placed within what is called a protoform. This is the first stage of their life cycle. A body starts as nothing but a mass of liquid metal. It goes through a process that lasts a few minutes to even days, and the CNA, or the design schematics, which is considered to be the Transformer's genetic code, is accessed within each spark, forming the appearance and even possibly the alternate mode, which is completely randomized. Sparks can also be placed into pre-built bodies, as well as already established machines, giving both life. 2 other ancient artifacts that I should mention that give life besides Vector Sigma would be the Allspark and the Matrix of Leadership. Briefly about these two, the Matrix of Leadership, the appearance of this relic is a glowing crystal encased inside a metal shell and has 2 handles on each side to hold. It is usually passed down to the next Prime, the leader of the Autobots, and is usually placed within inside their chest. The Allspark was introduced in the Michael Bay-verse. It's a large cube with Cybertronian symbols all over. It releases surges of energy, and if this energy or even the cube itself comes into physical contact with machinery, these machines can be turned into Cybertronians of all sizes.
We're able to take the cube radiation, funnel it into that box.
But back to the birth of a Cybertronian. After coming online, the first stage of their life cycle before gaining their alternate mode, the protoform is much thinner and completely gray in color. They can be considered to be naked in this shape. Cybertronians have been shown to be able to shed their alternate forms back to the protoforms, which can turn into something called a transition form. This is capable of interstellar travel. This pod-like shape can gather space dust, developing a meteor-type crust over its surface to make a complete meteor disguise when traveling between planet to planet. This layer burns off when entering a planet's atmosphere. Once landing on a new world, they will look for machinery to analyze to emulate its design to blend into their new environment. Early life is very different for Cybertronians compared to human children. After coming online, they are essentially adults and are completely independent, not needing guidance like infants. However, it has been shown that newborns do learn lessons in group settings. The people of Cybertron are born into a caste system, which is a class structure you are placed into at birth determined by their alternate mode. For example, if you're born with an alt mode to turn into a tank, you'd be placed into the military class. Or if you gain the form of a trash truck, you would be put into the disposable class. And these placements would be for the most part permanent for some classes. This means those with a rare and generalized forms receive more freedom and or career choices, these being considered to be the top of their society. The restrainment and lack of freedom of choice of the system would cause unrest among the people, leading to the eventual social decay of Cybertron, which would happen over a course of many, many years. Transformers can be considered to be ancient beings. The average lifespan of the species would be around 4 to 7 million years old. But don't get this mistaken, these robotic beings by far are not immortal. They've been shown to be susceptible to a few methods. Being super durable to damage, the Cybertronians can be related to humans in the sense of being weak or vulnerable to certain injuries. They can take high amounts of gun damage, large stab wounds, and lost limbs, but the most fragile part of their anatomy, like humans, being their heart, in Transformers it would be their spark. Any severe damage to a spark is basically fatal, and they can even burn out over time as well. Transformers uniquely though can replace damaged limbs and even whole bodies so long as their spark is completely intact. Their sparks, which carry unique genetic code and even storage of their memories, can be put into a new protoform. Sparks can also survive for short periods of time outside of the body, but can be transferred in special capsules. They have even been shown to be capable of being reignited if there's no severe damage, usually from a large energy source like the Matrix of Leadership or Energon.
And watch the magic happen.
Now, everyone gets a little bit hungry, am I right? We all gotta grub. The appetite of these overgrown vending machines, they consume one rare resource called Energon, which can be referred to as fuel. This is essential to the species' survival and the one thing that keeps them powered. Energon has been shown to come in a variation of forms: crystals, gases, and even liquids. Raw Energon deposits can be unstable, affecting or even overloading sparks in certain cases, so it has to go through processing to become consumable for Transformers. It can either be used as a nice cold beverage or through injections to refuel Cybertronians. A synthetic version of this resource has been made from other sources of energy, like gasoline on Earth. There are a few other variations of this power source, most notably Dark Energon, being the so-called blood of Unicron. It holds the ability to grant enhanced strength, but corrupts the user, even being capable of reviving dead Cybertronians into brainless zombies. Although being of great power and numbers, the Transformers had a long period of darkness throughout their history on Cybertron. A time period shadowing over their planet was called the Age of Wrath, which was brought upon the world by one of the 13 Primes named Quintus Prime, the creator of space travel. Briefly, Quintus was a pure dreamer with the qualities of perfectionism and idealism. He left Cybertron when the species began their rise in population, and he dreamed of creating his own life, so he eventually found himself on a planet similar to that of his home. This world was made up of abundant metals, and he named this planet Quintessa. He eventually succeeded in creating life by making the Quintessons, tentacled beings with 5 faces on their heads, and this new species had sinister intentions to find their master's homeworld. But as for their creator, it is unknown exactly what happened to him. But his brother Alphatron, another member of the 13, suspected his creations turned on him. The Quintessons mysteriously got access to legendary blueprints of space bridges. More on these later. But these tentacle heads eventually found their way to Cybertron during the time when the Transformers were recovering from a planet-wide natural disaster, and the species was at a point where they were more primitive. The Quintessons decided to conquer Cybertron, but the Cybertronians were more physically strong than them, so the Quintessons decided to go down the psychological, manipulative route by posing as their creators. So they decided to help rebuild the planet with the Cybertronians, but with the evil intention of mastering space bridge technology to ship enslaved Cybertronians across the galaxy to their colonies. But a Transformer named Sentinel Zeta Prime got a whiff of what these squid heads were cooking up and led the Transformers in a rebellion to banish this corrosive race from their world and free their people. But this only fueled the Quintessons to be more violent and to eventually plot to come back and take Cybertron one day. Due to this overthrow of power, the space bridge blueprints along with some spacecrafts that were left behind by the Quintessons led Cybertron into the Golden Age, which lasted over 800,000 Earth years. During this time of peace, the species made huge leaps in technology, even mastering space bridges, which are basically a teleportation system that was instant travel to be used to explore new worlds. This allowed the race to expand and colonize on many other planets. But Sentinel Prime ordered all bridges to be destroyed at one point. It was due to a rust plague that was discovered in one of these colonies, which destroyed every metal it came in contact with. It rapidly spread from space bridge to space bridge, so this would mark the end of the colonization project to keep the sickness from spreading to to their homeworld. This led to these colonies being cut off, ultimately adapting to their own ways of life, factions, and the civilizations eventually forgetting their true origins. Near the end of the Golden Age, all good things must come to an end when two bots named Orion Pax and Megatronus were created. Remember when I mentioned that the planet used a class system at birth to categorize its citizens? Well, this social hierarchy caused the downfall of Cybertron and built unease among its people throughout the years. Megatronus desired change when he was the one to rise to the occasion against the corrupt government that was failing his people. He believed that they deserved a strong leader to bring order. Megatronus eventually attracted a group of people who believed in a unified Cybertron. He caught the attention of one Autobot named Orion Pax. He agreed with Megatronus in his point of view of how to strengthen Cybertron as one. Once given the audience with the High Council, Megatronus demanded to be given the title of the next Prime, or he would overthrow by force. On the other hand, Orion Pax took the stand, and through his words of bringing their home together into a future of peace and prosperity, the council was moved by Orion's words and crowned him to be the next Prime. Even though with the greatest intentions from Orion, this moment would change the course of the planet and the species forever. Megatronus felt like he was betrayed by his friend and started a civil war amongst his people, leading the Decepticons. As for Orion, he was renamed the legendary Optimus Prime, and he led the Autobots into battle to hold the peace. This would lead to the Great War, the classic fight between good versus evil, Cybertronian versus Cybertronian, Autobot versus Decepticon. This civil war would last thousands of years, dwindling the species' numbers greatly and draining their homeworld of its natural resources, making it inhabitable. The war continues on between these two former brothers, Optimus still fighting the good fight with his spark of pure gold.
Time to find out.
So I made a chart where I ranked different aliens determining how dangerous each species is. It starts at Class 1 being the lowest threat to Class 8 cosmic danger. The Cybertronians are some durable big boys, especially the Decepticons who are super ruthless. They are capable of causing mass destruction on a wide scale, and through the Michael Bayverse, an army of these tin cans is formidable to fight if you don't have Autobots on your side. They can hide in plain sight by scanning technology such as vehicles and even military artillery, making them very stealthy. Their advanced technology makes them perfect for breaching into the most advanced governments. They've shown plenty that they are formidable and can be true weapons of war. Although they are tough and can be a big issue, I would put them in the Class 6, Extreme Danger, being very effective in combat, capable of wide-scale destruction, and can be difficult to contain. But we've seen that they can be destroyed by skilled units of military, and even imprisoned by the government inside a custom-made prison on Earth when Megatron was negotiating to have some of his colleagues released. Due to them being very few in numbers, makes them more manageable to handle, and as long as these species don't see eye to eye, that will always be their downfall, because you can always count on some of their race siding with humanity.
Take off his head.